What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Robert R. Ricks. This is the real-time story time. We're doing this shit live. Live in your ears. We're gonna have fun with this episode. We're just gonna go with it and have a good time. Alright, yeah. This is some awesome music by my boy Earl. Skills to pay the bills. Oh yeah. So we're gonna do Bloodline. I think we're gonna do Bloodline. So this is the theme music for Bloodline right here. We're about to rock this motherfucker. You guys ready? I don't know if you guys are ready. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What's up, Garen? What's up, Lyra Lope? What's up, Paula Lucky Lope? This is the real-time story time. Bloodline. So this story right here, it really has some autobiography kind of points to. I'm really putting myself in this story. So those of you who know a little bit about me might catch some of that. But this is me kind of working through the death of my daddy, stuff like that. Have to use an old phone because the sound of my old phone went out. That's not fun. Give it a little bit more here. Dun 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 dun. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. All right. Okay. All right. Again, thank you, fucking Earl, for that amazing fucking music. You are the motherfucking man. This is a real-time story time. We're doing a little bit different. Normally, I do, audience participation, and I had a sneaky suspicion we weren't going to have enough people in, and we don't. We only have Garen, Lyra, and Paula up in this motherfucker. So, that being said, I am going to give you guys a special treat. This is raw. This is uncut. This is raw dump of my new novel that I'm working on, and I am going to be really banging on this bitch to try to get it done as quick as possible. But this is an interesting thing, interesting story. So without further ado, let's get into Bloodlines. We'll go ahead and get in here. Let's do it like that. Here we go. Chapter 1. Does he have any blood relatives you know of? The question had stuck with John the moment the stranger on the phone had asked. Other than my brother and his sons? Yes. No. You sure? What about his brother and sisters? Aunts, uncles? John had paused then and roused and sacked his memory. Nothing popped up, and he found that strange. He could only think of two people, his Uncle Goat and his grandmother. Sorry, no. I know he had a grandma. I think she died a long time ago, and Uncle, who my dad would joke about what a fucking beast he was, but I think him dead by now as well. Supposedly on the Ryder's side there's tons of family. My dad took my brother to Rydersville to meet the clan, but the stepson wasn't invited. John tried to sound indifferent about it, but the pain of rejection was still fresh in his heart even after all the years. He never understood why his father brought his brother and not him as well. He was lost in the moment as a man interrupted and pulled him back to the moment. The grandmother. Got a name on her? John struggled. What was her name? She had visited often from Virginia when he was young, and she would rain gifts of joy when she was around. A large, boisterous woman of deep caramel skin and powerful presence. He struggled to remember her face, and nothing was there. Just a ghost of a memory of her presence. Man, no, I got nothing. Blank. A disappointed sigh. And your brother? Where is he now? Jail. The word hung heavy in the air, and the stranger continued. And his sons? I'm sorry to interrupt, but you still haven't told me why you need all this information about my dad. And remind me who you are again? Oh, yeah, sorry about that. I'm Raymond Jones, a private investigator the hospital system hires from time to time when they have patients on critical care RCU. End of life stuff. I have a file here with this information on it. Okay. His sons, well, they think their grandfather's dead. A pause. And why? Pops had cracked out. He was all fucked up on drugs. Drained my mom of all her money and was stealing drugs from work. He got caught and fired and kind of fucked the family up. Later, when he was caught doing something illegal, he was in jail. Brother had visited him, and something in a visit really upset my brother, and after that he told me he had no dad. And basically told his kids, when he asked, Grandpa died a long time ago. John had wondered why the man hadn't asked more about his brother. Usually people were very, very curious about someone who was in jail. Why? What had happened? To whom? But Raymond hadn't seemed interested. In fact, he almost sounded relieved. What about you? What about me? How are you related to your brother? Same mom, different dads. I see. So, other than your brother and his sons, no blood relatives that you know of? No. Level with me. Is he fucking dying or something? I don't know. I have a file here. Okay. Sorry. Sorry to have to dug up all these bad memories. No worries. The conversation had shifted. It had moved quickly from eager ear fishing for information and hopeful data minings to a quick pivot to end the call. With a nervous, almost panicked energy that he had been trying to keep subdued, John had instantly felt it and knew what was coming next. Listen, I have a call coming in from another client. I'll call you back. No, you won't. John knew, not knowing how he knew. Okay. Just so you know, I don't hate the man. He was a good father to me, just got caught up in shit. I hope he finds peace if he is passing. If you're looking for any blood relatives, I don't think you're going to find anyone other than me who has forgiven him for what he did to the family. I gotta go. Yep. The line was dead, and John sat there with an uneasy feeling resting on his chest. The call was significant. He knew that much. Why? He wasn't sure. Something had been awoken by it, though. Something which had been sleeping peacefully until the strange call had come in. He realized there was very little he actually knew about the man who had claimed him as son and spent the better part of 2 decades beating the lessons of life into him. He stared at the screen in front of him and sighed heavily. He heard the faint shuffling of his wife's, Ileana's, feet as she approached. She was 3 rooms away, and her slippered feet made a faint shuffle sound as it slid on the carpet. He heard it grow louder, and then as she transitioned from carpet to wood, the sound shifted also. She was still down the hall, and he could smell her scent, a wonderful mixture of her body lotion and her skin. Even after all the years that had passed since they had been married, she was intoxicating to him. She made her way to his office and stood at the threshold of the room and watched her husband stare at nothing on the screen. She sensed his unease. Who was that? I'm not 100% sure. Claimed he was a private investigator. How much of the call did you hear? Nothing much. What was it about? Said my dad was in a hospital in Atlanta. Atlanta? I thought he was in the Bay. John shook his head and tugged on his long beard. It was a nervous habit he had when he was deep in thought or working a perplexing puzzle. Well, let's see. Glancing at his cell phone call logs, he saw the name of the caller ID was indeed Raymond Jones. He looked at the computer screen in front of him and typed in the name and added private investigator, and the results came back with several results which confirmed there was indeed a Raymond Jones, and he was in Atlanta, Georgia. Ileana pointed at the screen and nodded. Yeah, look, Atlanta. He was asking questions about blood relatives of my dad. I told him I thought my grandma was dead. She is. Oh, I thought so, but couldn't remember her name or anything. Grace. Shit, I couldn't recall that. And then asked about others. She had some brothers and sisters. Oh, he had some brothers and sisters. He did? Yeah. He didn't doubt the information, and even though it felt odd that his wife knew more than he did, he just chalked it up to the fact that she had memory of an elephant and his was like sand through fingers. John then gave a quick replay of the call, and his wife looked confused. Hospital hired him, I guess. His wife was a nurse, and he could sense her bullshit meter was rising. Weird that a private investigator would try to hunt down family members. You still have that subscription to the online lookup thingy? You still paying the subscription on it? John nodded. Yeah. When I was going to cancel it, came back with a lifetime fixed rate of $13 a month. I figured, fuck it, might be useful, right? He couldn't recall the number or the name of the site. He couldn't recall the name of the site and simply typed in background check and scanned the results for a name that was familiar. He found the site and clicked the link and brought it up on the screen. There it is, he said with a grin. He typed in his dad's name, Theodore Riders, Atlanta, and waited a moment. Several records came up, and he found one with a man's age, 85, and the same birth date, 01/23/1935. He clicked the record. An image of an old white man stared out from the screen, and he shook his head. Whoa, that sure ain't him, but all the addresses and locations are right. Wow, he moved a lot, but look, Atlanta, Georgia. Yep. John scrolled down and saw the image of the man was pulled from a social profile of the name that matched his father's name. He wondered why his father had no social footprint at all, and shrugged and filed it away. So he's dying, huh? Apparently. You okay? Not sure. I'm processing. Part of me thinks this is something else. Private investigator hunting down information for someone who my dad shafted for money or something. What you gonna do? Nothing. Atlanta? That shit is far away. I don't have any money to head out that way for someone who completely fucked the family. Plus, I got shit here I gotta handle. She kissed him gently on the head and smiled weakly at him. He could feel her concern for him. She squeezed his shoulder and then left the room and shuffled back towards the kitchen. John stared at the screen and read the previous addresses, and there were phone numbers as well. He copied the information and pasted it on his OneNote application and made a new tab called Pop's Info, and then closed out the program. Something about the call continued to bother him. Blood relatives. Blood. There had been a lot of blood in his life. None of that bothered him. What kept coming back to haunt him, though, was the complete lack of knowledge he had about the lineage on his father's side. Not his biological father. He knew all the information about him. The only relevant information was ethnicity and medical history. He was not John's father. Theo was. It had been a long time since he had thought about Theo. Theo was larger than life, strong, silent most of the time until warmed up to you, and very shielded. The man never showed affection. It was only through tough love that you could, in hindsight, discern any love at all. John struggled and realized his father had only told him once that he loved him. To say John had daddy issues was an understatement. Something he had wrestled with his entire life. Something he was working hard to ensure he wasn't repeating with his own son Gabe. Father and son. John's mind flipped through dozens of memories of his father and then thought of his brother Cain. Their relationship had been strained and volatile their entire life, oftentimes being very physical. As they became adults, they had mellowed and found common ground with becoming fathers themselves. When Cain had been caught and charged for the killings, they had gotten closer for a bit. Then things abruptly went sideways when Cain's famous anger mixed with the family's stubbornness resulted in estrangement between the brothers. John hadn't had a conversation with his brother in over 8 months. He figured probably not the best way to get back in touch. "How's prison treating you? Anyone trying to get close to you? Oh, by the way, Pops is probably dying, and even though you disowned him, I'm sure there's a part of you that would run and check on him, but you can't because you're locked up tight in a clink and won't see the light of day for many, many years." "Fuck," John said as he rubbed his head. He was starting to have a migraine, and the right orbital socket ached deeply behind his eye. He stood up and stretched. "Nothing I can do," he said as he left his office and went to join his wife in the kitchen. He needed a distraction. Ghosts from his past were knocking at the back of his skull, and he didn't feel like entertaining old friends. Chapter 2. Raymond hung up the phone and stared at the man who was leaning on a file cabinet in a small, cramped office. Folders were littered across 2 desks, and a man had been reading one as Raymond was working on the phone. "I don't know. I have a file here. Okay, sorry to have dug up all these bad memories." Raymond glanced at the gunman, who looked irritated with the answers he was hearing on the call. "No worries," said John, clearly on the speakerphone. The gunman motioned at Raymond with the pistol to hurry the call along, knowing that John Riders didn't have the information he required. "Listen, I have a call coming in from another client. I'll call you back." "No, you won't," the gunman thought to himself. Plan firmly set in his mind. "Okay, just so you know, I don't hate the man. He's a good father to me and just got caught up in shit. Hope he finds peace if he's passing. If you're looking for any blood relatives, I don't think you're going to find anyone other than me who has forgiven him for what he did to the family." The gunman found a tone and statements interesting. Theo had fucked his family over, and the stepson had forgiven him. If only John had known what he knew, perhaps he wouldn't be so forgiving. "I gotta go," Raymond said urgently and hung up the line. "I worked the file. The guy doesn't have anything we didn't already know." Raymond stared at the gun, fixated on the smooth metallic surface which was polished, and the reflective surface showed him blurry images of his wall. "Yeah, so Theo has a son named Cain, and 2 sons, Michael and Joshua. John's half-brother on his mother's side, so no blood relation to Theo." "Correct." "No social footprint to speak of. Ex-wife despises him. New wife despises him. Hell of a legacy this fucker's gonna leave." "Okay, we good? Answer me this. The data you have in this here folder, that's all that exists?" "Yes, everything." "In your professional opinion, does John know more?" Raymond paused and thought about it. "I don't believe—" The shot rang out quickly. Raymond's head whipped back violently with an explosion of flesh, blood, and brain matter splattering on the desk and laptops. "Good, 'cause I don't want to waste a trip to Utah if I don't have to. Thanks for your services." The man carefully turned, exited the private office, and tiptoed over the body of a beautiful young woman whose eyes held a permanent expression of shock and fear as he had slit her throat to express the urgency of the situation of Raymond 30 minutes earlier. The blood that had escaped the large gaping wound in her neck was surprising and amazing to him. His way to the door was blocked by the large volume of it on the floor. Disappointing. He closed his eyes, took 3 long, drawn-out breaths, then opened his eyes and walked to the door. He looked back, and the blood was immaculate, and not a trace of his passing was visible. His head throbbed slightly, and he tucked the pistol away near the small of his back and allowed his jacket to cover it as he nimbly exited and closed the door behind him as he did, the folder with Theo's information tucked under his arm. He got to his car and fished out his cell phone and called a number. The line rang once and was picked up. "What do we know?" asked a deep voice, tinted with age and sophistication. "The son, Kane, is in prison." "Any other blood relatives?" "Two grandsons, Michael and Joshua." "And?" There was a tone of expectation within the voice. "Theo also has a stepson, John." "Why is he relevant?" "I'm not sure. I don't think he is, but there's something about him." "Victor, you'd better be sure about this something. We need to keep this tight and clean. We are only sanctioned for the cleansing. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "And Theo, you have location on him?" "Yes. I have the hospital information. Looks like he was in an accident. Been out of it for about a week now." "So we have an opportunity here." "Yes." "You know what needs to happen." It wasn't a question. Victor knew it and understood. "Of course. What about the son and grandsons?" "The bloodline has to be ended." "You know this." "Yes, but surely in prison it would have been apparent if the quickening occurred." "You would think." "What do you know of him?" "Kane?" "Yes." Victor examined a folder and read from it. "Kane Ryder, arrested for multiple homicides and disposing of the bodies. Crime committed with a pistol in California, multiple counts of kidnapping, imprisonment, murder." Sounds like quickening to me. "But nothing since being in jail. There were some reported fights, no fatalities." "Really?" "Yes, and the fact that he's still in jail, that would indicate otherwise. Would you allow yourself to be caged?" "No." "Good point. So you don't think the quickening was passed on to him?" "Well, we have to find out. In any event, he's locked up. If he does or doesn't have the ability, it's going to be difficult to get to him either way." "We have resources within the prison system. I'll grant you access. Plus, you should have adequate resources available to you now. Tell me about Michael and Joshua." "Michael 25, Joshua 21. Michael works as a mechanic. Joshua is in college. Doesn't list what his major is. Both reside in San Francisco area." "Anything of interest on them?" "No. Better to be safe than sorry. You're cleared to clean house for bloodline cleansing." There was a moment where both men paused to allow the gravity of the situation to sit when the man said, "Siblings. Did Theo have brothers or sisters?" "There's some names we're chasing down now. So far, the ones we know have been taken care of. I'll know more by end of the day." "Good. Please do and proceed with the family we know about." "Okay. I'll put together an action plan and send it to you for approval." "Thank you." Victor hung up the phone and began to drive. He wondered how Vanessa was doing chasing down the information on Theo's brothers and sisters. He smiled softly as he thought about her. She was thorough and meticulous. If there were other actionable information, she would find it. He didn't like the idea of bloodline cleansing, but he understood it. He had a few more jobs to complete, and he knew once they were completed, he'd be rewarded. He and Vanessa would then belong to something major. They'd be taught greater secrets and have more of the truth revealed to them. Chapter 3. John's phone rang, and for a moment he wondered if it was the private investigator calling him back. A day had passed, and he speculated maybe there was more information the man had needed, and he was making good on his promise to call him back. As he glanced down, he saw the right area code, but saw it was the Atlanta Police Department that was displayed on a caller ID. His heart began to beat harder. He knew his father had been involved in criminal activities as well as a healthy drug addiction, and suspicion grew that the call from the private investigator wasn't from the hospital, but rather victims of shady deal or some other nefarious endeavors. "Hello?" It's just John Ryder, as a smooth bass-filled voice John thought was better suited for radio and not someone in law enforcement. Yeah, who may I ask is calling? My name is Detective Jackson with the Homicide Division in Atlanta. Is this about my dad? I'm sorry, your dad? No. You received a call from Raymond Jones shortly before he died? Wait, what? Yes, he was murdered. We're following it up on all the leads. The call records show he had a phone call with you. Yeah, about my dad. I thought that's what you were calling me about. He called me and said something about my dad being in the hospital. Your dad's name? Theodore Ryder? There's a faint scratching noise on the phone, which John figured was a detective writing notes. We don't have a file here for him. Do you know the hospital? Sorry, no, I don't. We didn't get to the details. He got some information and then bailed on the call. He had someone else calling him or something. Okay, and anything on a call strike you as odd? Other than someone calling and asking me questions about my dad who I haven't seen in over 20 years? No, nothing else. There was an uncomfortable silence. John felt anxious. He hadn't had many conversations with police officers, let alone a homicide detective. Okay, that's all the questions I have. Is it okay if I follow back around with you if something else pops up? Sure. Call anytime you need. A pause and then, wow, it's crazy, you know? What's that? You know how people say stuff like, man, I was just talking to that guy? Yeah. Well, I was just talking to that guy and now he's dead. It's weird. Tell me about it. Alright, sorry about that. I ramble when I get freaked out and this kind of freaks me out. Understandable. Thanks for your time. The line went dead and John stared at the phone, still dazed. Who's that, honey? His wife had been standing near him for most of the call, and he acknowledged her with a slight shake of the head and then eye contact. That investigator dude that called me about my dad is dead. Someone killed him. Why? Her face was a mixture of shock and curiosity. Got me, not like the detective shared anything other than the murder itself. He was asking about the call. I answered his questions. Funny thing is, I thought they were calling about my dad. He's been on my mind a lot lately. She nodded and hugged John. I bet. You okay? John shrugged. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me was hoping my dad had done something criminal so I could picture him like some Wild West outlaw still kicking up dust, not laying in a hospital dying. Is that fucked up? She shook her head and marveled at he marveled at her beautiful brown eyes. Morning light was streaming into the bedroom, and the beams caught the corner of her eyes. They illuminated him, making it almost seem to glow softly. No, I wouldn't want to picture my dad dying. I miss him and think about him all the time. John nodded and sighed. He silently hoped he hadn't inadvertently opened an old wound for his wife. He turned and kissed her gently, and held her for a few moments for taking a deep breath and then walking into the bathroom to finish getting ready for the day. His wife was dressed and ready. He was moving slow and felt as if he was underwater. His body felt heavy to him. He noticed a bit of paper on the floor and bent to pick it up, and there were a few pops, and he groaned. He was stiff and his body ached slightly. You okay? Again he shrugged. Not sure, maybe a little cold or something. Let's hope not. The damn COVID-19 is scary shit. He nodded. The news had been pressing the topic, and he was unsure if the situation was being overhyped or if it was truly dire enough to warrant their fear. Yeah, that reminds me. I need to call my mom and check on her. I think some of that stuff's in the Bay Area now, right? Okay, well, when you talk to her, give her my love. And as far as you, she walked to John and pressed her hand on his head. It was cool and comforting against his flesh. Damn, you are a little warm. What you got planned today? Yeah, I have a staff meeting, video conference on the good old internet. Good. Better than me. I have to get fitted for the N95 mask, and it looks like we're going to be hiring people to be greeters in the ED. John groaned. Can't you just tell them you're sick and not go to ground zero? Sure. You make a few million and I'll quit. Fine, I'll get right on that. He smiled and stared, and then his expression turned more serious. I want you to be extra careful. Make sure you keep nice and clean. Do I need to rig up a decontamination area when you come home? Maybe not a full-blown one. Perhaps we should be extra careful, and I changed out of scrubs into something cleaner when I come home? Okay, I can do that. What time you get off tonight? I'm working at 13L, 101 tonight. Fine, I'll still be up. If you feel fine, then fine. Otherwise, get some rest. I can make sure not to bring home the Mexican beer bug if you don't already have it. Where you been hanging out at? He shrugged and laughed. Nowhere. Let's see. Best Buy, Target, Walmart, the mall. Oh, the Chinese supermarket, 'cause you wanted the special rice. Damn, racist much? Kidding. No, not kidding. Oh, we did have dim sum on Sunday. She made a face and smiled. I suppose in Utah those areas could be more international, could have more international travelers, which could have potentially increased the possibility of infection. Yeah, I seriously doubt it. We have like what, 2 people infected here publicly right now? They're both from cruises. I'm pretty sure I just have something normal. You seen the kids yet today? Rachel and Gabriel should be at school already. Jasmine's probably sleeping. You have an appointment with her this week, right? Yeah, tomorrow. How's she doing? John groaned. That was a loaded question. All things considered, she's doing remarkably well. Not shifting in a week at least. No shifting in at least a week. A week? Yeah. What does the therapist say? Idea on how long till she's whole? From what he said, this is measured in decades, not years. It's a pretty big deal. She was quiet. The tension in the air went up 1,000%. John held her stare and nodded. I got this under control. We're making great progress. Slow and steady, right? She smiled. Yep. Slow and steady. Okay. I gotta run. I'll call when I'm away home later tonight. Sounds like a plan. Love you. I love you more. She left him in the bathroom with his thoughts, and the weight of the morning events were already weighing heavy on him. He started brushing his teeth, planning the day ahead of him. The water seemed excessively loud to him as it ran, and he adjusted the flow until it was a faint trickle. And still, the sound was there. Finally, he shut it off and leaned on a counter. His head was throbbing, and he groaned. Fucking migraines, he groaned to himself. He looked up and noticed his eyes were changing color. Or at least, for a moment. That's what he thought. There were flecks of gold and red and a hint of green swirling for a moment. He was sure of it. He blinked twice and leaned towards the mirror closer to investigate. He was leaning in, and a toothbrush hung precariously from his mouth, and a frothy toothpaste was dripping out the corner. He heard footsteps rapidly approaching, and before he could straighten out, he saw his daughter staring at him inquisitively. Dad? He leaned down, spit out the toothpaste, and ran to water and rinsed his mouth. He raised a hand to signal he needed a moment. He wiped his mouth and turned to face his daughter. Yeah, kiddo, what's up? You okay? John glanced back at the mirror again and quickly looked at his eyes. Yeah, I thought I saw something in my eyes. You see anything odd? He turned and opened his eyes widely. She stared and studied him for a moment. No, looks like they always do. Never mind. Okay, so what do you need? I was going to ask Mom something. Did she leave already? He nodded. Yep, you can run real quick though. She's in the garage. How can you tell? I can hear the car in the garage is opening now. You can hear that? Yeah, go, hurry. Jasmine ran out of the bathroom quickly, and John ran his hands through his hair and styled it. When he was done, he cleaned the area up and left the bathroom and headed for the kitchen. The coffee was almost done brewing when Jasmine returned from the garage. She had a stern look on her face. What? He asked as she walked in. Nothing. What? I asked Mom if it would be cool to take some extra classes. And? She said she'd have to talk with you about money. What classes? Some programming ones. He nodded and stared at her. He understood why his wife had stalled and said what she had said. With the doctor visits, the physical therapy he was doing, the normal cost of the education system, and a new house, money was stretched very tight. We'll figure something out. I don't have to. We'll get it figured out. I hate this, Dad. Hey, honey, relax. I feel like such a burden. Well, you are. All of you are, he said with a warm smile. Excuse me? She stared at him like his face was made of rotted mustard. Don't look at me like that. Let me explain myself, please. She shifted her weight on her feet and waited, and the expression of her face softened slightly. Being a parent, a good parent, means you support your kids. You help them when they need help. You carry them, push them, get them where they need to be. So yeah, there's weight you guys present to me to carry sometimes, but make no mistake, I choose to carry the weight. There's nothing that I do for you guys that I don't do happily. I'd lay my life down and die for you if I needed to. She listened and nodded, and yet he knew, the words didn't have the effects he wanted. He needed her to understand that she and her siblings and his wife were his world. Over 90% of every action he did was for them. Everything was for family, for his blood. Blood. Again, the thought of how odd the questions the man who was killed. Why was blood important? Because there's power in blood. It's all that matters. The voice in his head was familiar and yet darker. It startled him for a moment, then he realized his daughter was staring at him. I know you would, Dad. You okay? He nodded and quickly looked away. John cleared his throat, which suddenly seemed rough and dry. So, as I was saying, I don't want you thinking you're a burden that we have to deal with. Your mother agrees with me and she loves you just as much as I do. So please understand, stuff you're going through isn't your fault, okay? She nodded and still didn't look convinced. Because she's not. Why would she be? She's broken, and you have to pay money to try and fix her. John ignored the voice, and anger was beginning to boil in him. The voice was much more than inner monologue. It wasn't his thoughts. He knew in his heart how he felt. So when is the next appointment, Dad? What? Appointment. You're okay? You're, not really here. Yeah, lots on my mind. Appointment tomorrow, 2:30. She sighed softly and hugged him. Love you, Dad. Love you as well, he said with a return hug. His daughter smiled up at him. She feels safe and better when she hugs you. You mean everything to her. Jasmine stared at her father. As the voice was talking to him, John's eyes strobed for a moment, and she noticed. She wasn't sure what she had witnessed, but she saw something. He felt her reaction and released his hug. What's up, honey? Something weird just happened with your eyes. Like a light thing? She nodded. What the hell, Dad? I don't know. I saw it earlier. Is it bad? He thought for a moment and then stared at his daughter. Can I ask you a question? She nodded, held his gaze, watching for the change again. When you shift, when you lose time, the others are there. But when you are here like now, can you hear them talk to you? Why? John swallowed hard. He was torn. He knew adding stress to his daughter increased the chance of her dissociative identity order kicking in, and most likely would result in her shifting into one of her other personalities. On the other hand, she was the only person in the world that he knew had a personal understanding of that condition. Lie to her. If you let her know about me, she'll worry, and that would be bad for both of you. There! Your eyes flashed again! It's kind of neat. Does it hurt? John shook his head and paused and noticed his migraine had passed. No, I was just wondering because I was reading the documentation your therapist gave us last session and was just curious is all. Yeah, there's a couple I can talk to. The other two don't really respond. Not sure what's up with that one. Which ones? Sam and Zero. John nodded. In a way it made sense. Sam was a powerful personality with fearless traits and dealt with confrontation. Zero was emotionless and almost pure logic. Discovering the personalities was a shock, and making a realization that his daughter had DID was something that he and his family hadn't come to grips with until one night when the events left little to doubt. So no with Jessie. Nope. The therapist thinks it's because she's young. Maybe she's scared. And the sailor? Other than that night? Haven't really seen him, have you? John shook his head. No, not since that one time. Stop wasting her time. I can explain some of this. Again? What the hell is that? I don't know. I'll talk with your mom about it later when she gets home. I'm sure she'll tell me who I need to see. Could be something to do with the inner ear stuff I got going on. My doc keeps telling me I'm really using my eyes for everything. Jasmine stared at her dad. You should record your eyes so you have some video to put up on your YouTube channel. I bet it would go crazy viral. No, don't do that. Whoa, that time was bright and lasted a little longer. Okay, do me a favor. Keep an eye on the dogs. I have some calls I need to make. Did you feed them? No. Okay, I'll do it after I finish up the dishes from last night. Alright, I'll be in my office. John walked quickly down the hall and entered a small room, which was his home office, and closed the door behind him. He sat in front of his terminal and tried to collect his thoughts. What the hell are you? What do you mean? Am I fucking going crazy? No. But be careful how loud you're talking. Jazz will be able to hear if you talk too loudly. Fine. If I'm not crazy, then what? DID also? Aversion. What do you mean aversion? I have a sneaky suspicion all will become clear soon. I don't understand. You will. But for a little bit, I need to drive. Enjoy your nap. Don't worry. I'll be careful. I'll leave a note for you in case it gets hard for us to talk again. Again? Shh. John's migraine returned with a vengeance, and then everything went dark. Chapter 4. It was unusual for Vanessa to be radio silent as long as she had been, so Victor was anxious. His cell phone vibrated angrily in his hand. He glanced down, and relief filled him. About fucking time. Aw, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you were worried about me. I am. What's the status? Dude is sleeping. Turns out there's more to the accident than we were informed. What? Looks like Theo has himself brain cancer. You sure? Yeah, I got a copy of the report. Kinda wanted some info before heading into the den. His heart rate sprang up. Hold up. That's not the plan. Intel first, then the team comes in and backs you up. Was thinking U-Haul ass, join me for some good old-fashioned ultra-violence? It'd take me an hour to get there. I'm waiting on reports from San Quentin as well as San Francisco. Who's working it there? Victor closed his eyes and took a deep breath as he focused on Vanessa. An image of her materialized in his mind's eye. He watched her as she was examining a report. He looked over her shoulder and read as he answered, Clive and Damon. Clive? In Quentin? Uh-huh. He continued to read and smiled to himself. Damon checking on the grandkids? Yep. He has some information on the younger brother. Soon we'll have the oldest one under surveillance as well. So Mr. Ryder there had some kind of episode and fell in front of a fucking truck? Am I reading that right? Ah, cheater. You're not supposed to be doing that. Aren't you worried you'll set off his quickening? No. But I am interested in the fact that he fell, was hit, and has very little injuries. Why is he not responsive? I'm thinking of cancer? That's not supposed to be possible with his bloodline. I'm looking at the scans and reports. I doubt somebody pooched the reports. Yeah, I could see them. As he watched Vanessa, he focused on a folder. With little effort, each page vanished, revealing the one under it. All the information he needed was in her hands. So what you think? I need a full team? Yes. How long till they get here? 30 minutes. Oh, 30. You know, that's enough time for us to get dirty. I could find a bathroom, do my thing to allow you to do your thing. He smiled. I'd like that. But we'll need to do a rain check. I want to stay focused. Pretty close here. Boring. Don't be like that. I can be all kinds of exciting. You'll owe me. I'm in the mood. You're always in a mood. Which is what you fucking love. Yeah, I do. I'll still keep Overwatch on you until this is done. So if I decide to go in the bathroom and, handle some shit, you'd have to watch? Vanessa. What? I have 30 minutes to burn. Do what you want. I always do. Vanessa could feel Victor's eyes on her as she slipped into the bathroom. She couldn't help herself. She was about to kill an old man, and with his death would come some rewards. More secrets. More power. She was beyond excited. She examined the bathroom, and when she saw no one was there, she stepped in to the furthest stall and grinned as she sat down. She placed one of her hands on her stomach and the other firmly between her legs. Closing her eyes, she began breathing cycles, slow, methodical, and she felt the electrical current and pressure beginning to build. Victor watched and smiled. She had been practicing a lot with the magic they had been gifted. Although she had found more creative uses for it, he could see the energy snaking out from her hands and marveled as Vanessa used it to probe her pleasure zones and didn't take her long to climax. She held her orgasms as long as she could until finally she collapsed and grinned. She hadn't made a single noise. No orgasmic screams of ecstasy as she often would do, drawing unnecessary attention. She allowed her breathing to return to normal, and she was dazed in riding her orgasm for all it was worth. Victor cleared his throat. That was impressive. That was a snack. When I see you, then I'm gonna feast. He grinned. There was no doubt he was intrigued and looking forward to their next rendezvous. He noted on his laptop where the tactical team position was. Okay, team's about 10 minutes out. They'll meet you in front parking lot. Playtime's over. For now. Vanessa stood, took a long, slow breath, and felt the afterglow slowly fade from her flesh. She was calm and relaxed. Exiting the bathroom, she made her way to the front of the hospital and waited under a large tree which had velvety warmth that flowed from it. This is an elder tree, she noted. How many there? She looked around the front, massive building, and frowned. About 10, I think. See? He looked through her eyes, and it took a moment for the connection to stabilize. And there they were. Trees, large and old. He focused, and the light and shadows shifted, and he could see energy flowing from the trees towards the hospital. Shit! What? They're activated, and the energy's flowing into the hospital. Why? Vanessa was confused. She knew the trees were alive and powerful, but she couldn't understand why power was flowing from them into the hospital. It's him. Theo? Yeah, listen. Hold back. Let the TAC team have access to your data and everything you know. Give the team lead a red crystal. I'll tag along with him via the red. You stay out. I have a feeling this is a trap. Oh. Her. Give her the red crystal. Why not just take the trees out of the equation? Because there's still a lot we don't know about elder trees. Plus, we need clearance for that. We only have bloodline access only. With slight, and I stress slight, collateral damage allowed. All these fucking rules. All the fucking magic. His response was cold and powerful at the mention of magic. Vanessa got quiet. We follow the rules. We get the rewards, right? Right. Fine. Once the team shows up, I'll transfer the lead to them. Thank you. You really think an 85-year-old man with brain cancer has a trap set? Not a man. A quick. 85 to a quick is relatively young. How did he look, though? Old as fuck. Emaciated, close to death. From pics and file. I saw him from outside his room as the nurse went into his room to check on him. Looks frail and weak. Looks frail. Victor was deep in thought. Vanessa saw the bright yellow van emblazoned with balloon images and a garishly ugly logo with flowers and the words Sunrise Beams of Hope on the side. Shit, really? What? We're going with flower arrangements? Bright and yellow, huh? Yes, the plan's to get in a room and distract as much as possible while dispatching the quick. Poison? Yes. TFO1. Oh, good stuff. Victor grinned. I thought it was fitting. He and Vanessa had used the same compound on their second assignment together. The gift for that mission was a spell of flesh melding. It was also the night they had committed their flesh blood ritual and knew there was no turning back from the dark path they were on together. Vanessa smiled as memories flooded in. That was a hell of a night. Here's hoping this works out just as well. The van pulled into a spot and 3 men stepped out. 2 held large tactical cases had triggers on the handles. She examined him and smiled. What are you boys playing with there? Modified FMP 90s, explosive rounds, reinforced bodies. Shit, explosive? We cleared on this? Who's lead? The driver's side door closed in a van, and a beautiful woman who was medium height and build with a crooked nose smiled at Vanessa. That's me. Name's Raven. Yeah, we're clear to engage if primary goal is compromised. Victor paused and thought for a moment. Vanessa, that's fine. Give her the information and the crystal. Victor wanted me to hand this over to you. Also, this is so he can provide overwatch. Raven took the file and the crystal. She handed the file to one of the men who wasn't carrying a case. Raven covered the crystal with both hands and quickly muttered an incantation and winced in pain for a moment. Crystal has been activated, she said, with a matter-of-fact tone. Vanessa, don't tell them about the elder trees. If they don't scan and sweep, that's on them. I want this to play out organically, so I can see how all this works. Vanessa stretched, popped her neck. It was a trained response that Victor knew and understood. Raven saw it, tilted her head. Nervous? Always, before it goes down. Relax. We got this. Okay, boys, mask up. There was a distortion of light, and the cases vanished, and instead it looked as if each man was carrying a handful of strings attached to colorful balloons. Their appearance were different as well. Now they all had the appearance of nondescript young men who all looked harmless and cheerful. Damn, those illusions are trick, Vanessa said with an authentic admiration. Yeah, they work even on digital optics. We can only do it once a day, though. Lasts for about 2 hours. Sick? Yep. Overwatch, you there? Victor focused on Raven. His perception shifted from Vanessa to her, and it was harder to get all the details. There wasn't a trust there and no relationship. That would make things harder, he realized, and would require more concentration. Yes, I see and hear 5x5. 5x5? Yeah, something my daddy used to say to us. Got it. Okay, so anything we should know about? You got the file there from Vanessa. Looks like the Quick has brain cancer. You sure about that? That's not supposed to happen. Yeah, exactly what I said, but there, you have the information. Could it be a setup? From whom? There's no leadership, no tribe to speak of anymore. They've been pretty much eradicated. Raven nodded. What about Quicksilver? Fucking ghost story. He doesn't exist. No evidence. Except 10 dead operators. Missing operators, corrected Victor. Grandmaster has addressed us already unless you'd like to contact him. Pause. Silence. Victor could feel the fear within Raven. Not necessary. So we're a go then? Yep. Okay, let's get this shit done, people. Victor watched Vanessa walk to her car as the team casually walked to the hospital. The man with the folder nodded and led the way until they came to a sealed set of double doors. The man read some notes, punched in a code, and the doors opened. The four of them walked into the ICU, and a short nurse approached them. I'm sorry, how did you get in here? This is ICU, not open for visitors. Raven smiled, leaned in as if she was telling a secret, and said a single trigger word, and the nurse's eyes flashed solid white once, and then she smiled, turned, and sat back at her station. The man with the folder pointed at a room, and the two men with cases maintained their position flanking the room. Raven walked towards it, scanning and paused. Overwatch, we have a huge fucking problem. What's that? You seeing what I'm seeing? Victor at first didn't see anything, and then as he focused, his breath was caught. The fuck? The room was covered in thin, spider-web-like strands of energy that crisscrossed the entrance and the entire room itself. Yeah, we should go plan B. No way we're getting in there. Who's backing this Quick up? No idea. Well, I'm not losing men. Either we light this fucker up or abort. Do you think the explosive rounds will do anything with that? You experienced anything similar to this before? Only one way to find out, and to answer your second question, no. Fuck no. Abort then. What? Unknown variables. Operators lead not confident. What else is there to do? So I make the call? Yep. You can bail. No honor lost there. Fuck it. Let's get some intel then. Raven walked to the nurse and whispered something to her that Victor couldn't hear. The nurse got up, walked into the room where the patient was sleeping, and as she passed through the webbing, they flashed a gentle green in color and nothing happened. She had passed through as if she were an apparition. She walked back to Raven and stood there. Raven pulled out a small vial and handed it to the nurse. As the nurse turned and started to approach the room, the strands began to glow a bright red and pulsed rapidly. The closer the nurse got, the more angry and bright the strands got. She ain't gonna make it. Pull the nurse back, warned Victor. I just want to see what they can do. Victor smiled. He also wanted to see, but he also wanted a record of his warning to be part of the log. The nurse got within 2 inches of the room, and the strand shot out and severed her hand. And as it fell, more of the strands shot out and wrapped around the vial. A moment later, a single strand shot out and almost reached Raven's eye. She had managed to raise her hand, and she struggled as she fought the advance of the strand, which was pushing forward. Abort, she said, and the men went to retreat. Fuck, negative, one of the men cried out in alarm as more red strands covered the exits. Light that fucking room then. Light up that fucking room then. The men turned and blasts rang out from their hands. The illusion of the balloons and strings faded, and the cases had explosive fire aimed at the room. Full auto, 30 rounds each were spent, and then there was an eerie, surreal silence. The air was filled with the smell of gunpowder and something else, something none of them could identify. The bullets were at the threshold of the room, captured and hanging in the air. The nurse was laying on the ground, moaning, and the strand that was trying to kill Raven was still pushing forward. She sighed as it suddenly stopped pushing forward, and she noted the strands were fading to the slight pinkish color. Look at the bullets, one of the men said sheepishly. The bullets were hovering within the mesh of strands. The strands which had covered the exits slowly retreated and faded. Fuck it, abort, Raven said, the sting of defeat in her tone. She was pissed and scared and relieved. The four made their way to the exit when she heard and felt the vibration. I don't think it's done with you. Get cover, Victor ordered. Raven had the doors open, was almost out when the air was filled with the whistling noises and muffled explosion. 2 men who were covering her were down, and their faces were exploded gore. The man with the folder was also down, and most of his midsection was blown away. There were still rounds floating within the doorway, and she rolled and ducked as she tried to evade the next barrage of bullets. She felt a searing pain in her calf, and a large pressure followed by a white flash of pain. She looked back and down and saw her right calf had been blown off by a round. Her training kicked in, and she motioned and focused. As she fished out a small vial of crimson red liquid, she poured it on what was left of her leg and kept sliding out of sight of the room. She did the quick incantation, and the bleeding stopped. She crawled quickly towards the way they had come. The initial gunfire had triggered a response from armed security was there. One man examined Raven and was confused. In the ICU, terrorist. Who are you? I was shot, dipshit. Jacobs, watch her while I check to see what the hell's going on. Jacobs was a large man with a large gut and spotty beard. He looked at Raven and her ravaged leg, and there was blood on the ground, but her leg itself wasn't bleeding. His mind was trying to make sense of the situation when he heard soft melodic words that danced around his ears. The woman motioned to him, and he couldn't help himself. He holstered his sidearm, knelt down, picked her up. Take me outside. There's a yellow van there. Take me to it. He nodded, did as he was instructed. You okay? Asked Victor, who was still amazed by what he had seen. Yeah, I'll live. What the fuck just happened? I don't know. Get out of there and head to the safe house. I know they're going to want a firm debrief on this. No shit, you think? The guard got Raven to the van, helped her get into the driver's side, and then she motioned for him to get in as well. What are you doing? Asked Victor. I'm not done with him. Plus, he'll need to be cleaned and wiped. You still gonna hang around as I get the fuck out of Dodge? No. Turn into Crystal when you can. Yeah, I know the drill. Victor detached and focused on Vanessa. What the fuck happened? She asked as she watched Raven drive away quickly. Fucking snafu. Aren't you glad I held you back now? Vanessa nodded and started to drive. We heading back to the safe house? Yeah. Which one should I go to? Head to Alpha House. That bad? Yeah, I'll head there when I can. Something's off on this whole thing. I need to check on the others. Vanessa cursed. This was bad. Very bad. Alright. So that's what I got. I have the parts of chapter 5, but it's really just a couple of paragraphs and it leaves it hanging, so I'm not going to go there. So anyway, that's starting to set the stage of the story. And it's coming across really easy. As I'm writing, the story is basically writing itself. So I'm really having a good time writing, and it is very, very, very rough. I mean, this is not even edited. It's just, as I'm done writing, I was reading to you guys. So no. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of craziness. There's magic. There's a group called the Quicks. Have some kind of an ability called the Quickening, and it's got some crazy stuff to it. It's got some craziness to it. So I think, and I'm trying to make sure that the bad guys are compelling. I don't want them to be cookie cutter. I don't want them to be one dimensional. I actually want to build on their whys, why they're doing what they're doing. So you get to see that Victor actually really cares about Vanessa, and there's a lot about their relationship and some other interesting aspects that will undoubtedly happen. But so that is the very beginning of Bloodline. I hope you guys liked it. Definitely is a interesting story for me to write. And you guys are the only ones that know that I'm mingling some of my personal life into this story. So that makes it a little bit interesting and also pretty cathartic, right? So that's it for now. I'm gonna go spend time with the kids and whatnot, and go from there. But I wanted you guys to be able to check this out, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Alright, that's it. I will see you guys next time. Alright.